Good evening, everyone. My name is John Scott Richardson. I'm here to deliver the invocation. I deliver this invocation in the Lenape words given to me by an elder, the original inhabitants of Manhattan Island in the tri-state area. Walawu wapan, ke goganawa, anishik, ele miyahan, ke gwe goganawa, inishik, lupe, anishik. Anishik.
Good evening, everybody. I want to welcome you to the 2017 Equator Prize Award Ceremony. How you guys feeling tonight? All right. I will be your master of ceremony for the evening. My name is Shutesca Tonati Martinez. I'm 17 years old. I'm a climate activist, a spokesperson representing my generation, indigenous people's voices. I've been on the front lines of climate and environmental and social justice since the age of 6. For the last 11 years of my life, I spent the last 11 years of my life dedicated to a struggle that is so much bigger than any one of us. When I fell in love with the world, it happened at a very young age. Recognizing that the beauty of the earth, of nature around us was something we have a responsibility to protect. My father is indigenous from Mexico City. My people are the Mexica people. And I was taught that as indigenous people, part of what makes us indigenous, part of what makes us human, a piece of our humanity is an understanding that we must protect all that is sacred. We must protect life on earth in the way that our ancestors and those before us fought to preserve it, and in honor of future generations. So I've been dedicated to that mission, fighting for sustainability, for justice, to empower and inspire this younger generation to rise up, to stand with the indigenous communities that are at the forefront of the issues that we are talking about, and bring hope to the world, act as the guides when it seems that much is broken. We have to recognize that this is bigger than politics, this is bigger than a scientific debate, this is bigger than the United Nations even. It's about our future, our planet, our home. It's our legacy. And if you look at it that way, this is a beautiful opportunity in history to stand up and determine what kind of legacy will we pass on to the future generations. That is what we are here to determine. That is what we are here fighting for. So I want to honor the guests here that are going to be here this evening receiving the Equator Prize. And it is an incredible honor to see that these indigenous leaders from all over the planet have fought for their land, their people, their rights, in a beautiful way to remind us that this struggle is a human struggle. It's a beautiful thing to fight for what we love, and I am honored to be here tonight to help the flow of the evening and to represent the younger generation in the room tonight. Are you guys ready for the evening? All right. Yes. And now, it is my honor to introduce tonight the administrator of the United Nations Development Program, Achim Steiner. Please put your hands together.
That was the best pronunciation of my name in a year. I was just practicing behind the curtain, but I would for once get Shuteshat's name correctly, because it's not an easy one to pronounce, and he pronounced mine so well tonight. So, Shuteshat, forgive me if I didn't get it quite right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this wonderful evening here. My name is Achim Steiner. My title is a somewhat odd one, so I am the administrator, but I sometimes prefer just the head of the United Nations Development Program, and really only since about 2.5 months. So it is great to be here so early in my tenure to share an evening with you, with people who, through the many searches that we do and nominations that we have received, we have brought here to New York this evening to celebrate with you much of what we talk about and much of what we aspire to when we talk about innovation, about creativity, about community, about nature-based solutions, and so many other terms that we have used. But above all, what we're doing here this evening is hopefully to celebrate the human spirit that reaches out to one another and suddenly, against all odds, against all challenges, can accomplish extraordinary things. And this evening, we have 15 communities represented through people from various countries and continents of the world who have been selected to celebrate that spirit. As we all know, you can never on a stage accommodate all the great things that happen in the world, so they stand for literally thousands, if not millions of others who we could not either identify or select or certainly not bring to New York City during this, the United Nations General Assembly week. And let me just say one word as we meet here this evening. To many out there, what happens here this week, maybe a couple of seconds in terms of the evening news or in terms of some particular conflict or disaster. But behind all of that news coverage lies an extraordinary idea that this world is safer, more likely to succeed, and better at solving problems if we can bring people together, even those who think they have nothing to say to each other, and during this week, even people who are actively at war with one another. That is the idea of the United Nations. That is where the Charter in 1948 began the story of the place we now call the United Nations headquarters. And it is with great pride that all of us in the United Nations system welcome all of you, whether here from New York or from any other part of the world, to both experience the challenges of trying to make peace in this day and age, to talk about challenges such as climate change, to look at poverty eradication, to also address the challenges of gender, inequality, and indeed of many of the communities, amongst them also indigenous peoples, who still are fighting for the fundamental human rights that the United Nations, both in its spirit and its law and the letter of the law, has actually defended for decades. This evening, the winners come from many parts of the world, and I will not introduce them individually now, but let me just say that the Equator Prize celebrates its 15th anniversary here this evening. So 15 winners, 15th anniversary. I was already beginning to get nervous whether I could get all these figures right. And above all, we've had over 5,000 nominations in these 15 years. So just for all those who did not, in the course of these 15 years, manage to find themselves on this stage, let's give them a round of applause, because they deserve it. The best thing I can do right now as an administrator is get out of your way and make the stage that which we have set it for, namely the winners of this year's Equator Prize. But before I do so, I have two more tasks. One is to thank those who make both the Equator Prize, the Equator Initiative, the partnership possible. And they have over the years been generous contributors in terms of funding, but also people support their networks. Tonight, I would like to recognize the governments of Germany, Norway, Sweden, the National Geographic, the Public Foundation, Conservation International, the Global Environment Facility, Rainforest Norway, and to the individuals who contributed generously to our crowdfunding campaign. Without their help, we would not be here, and certainly we would not be able to celebrate this year's winners. It is now my great pleasure, privilege, and joy to introduce the next speaker, the one and only Mary Robinson, former President of Ireland. Many things she has done in her life, but she has never stopped. And right now, with her foundation, the Mary Robinson Foundation for Climate Justice, she continues to do the amazing work that has defined her life. Mary Robinson.
Thank you. Well, good evening, and warm congratulations to the 15 communities who are receiving the Equator Prize this evening. You've done fantastic work, and it's great that you're recognized. When I was 4 years old, 48 countries signed the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This declaration, the most translated document in the whole world, and the foundation of many recent national constitutions, has had a profound influence on the world, and for good reason. Article 1 of the Universal Declaration says, all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. These sentiments were reinvigorated by the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples in 2007, which declares that Indigenous peoples are free and equal to all other peoples. They also provided the foundation for an extraordinary agreement signed just 2 years ago in 2015 for the Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 integrated goals that you've seen on the screen. And the preamble of the Sustainable Development Goals states that as we embark on this collective journey, we pledge that no one will be left behind. Perhaps more significantly, the 2030 Agenda calls on us to reach the furthest behind first. This means designing a global response that considers the needs of those made most vulnerable by climate change, poverty, and marginalization. Between the Universal Declaration in 1948 and the Sustainable Development Goals in 2015, we have made remarkable progress in dignity and rights. We've lifted more than 1 billion people out of poverty. Literacy rates have more than doubled, and we have significantly advanced rights related to race, ethnicity, sexuality, gender, and age around the world. Despite this progress, unsustainable consumption and production, environmental degradation, and climate change threaten to undermine our ability to achieve our global goals, especially those related to poverty reduction, to justice, equity, and fairness. Local and indigenous communities around the world are the most dependent upon nature for their survival. They depend on forests for their food, water, medicines, and fuel. They depend on fields, pollinators, and living soil organisms for their crops. They depend on fish in the oceans for food and livelihoods, on coastal ecosystems to protect them from storms. Indigenous communities are among those least responsible for greenhouse gas emissions, but are already suffering some of the most severe impacts of climate change. And I call that climate justice based on the injustice of climate change. In the last 2 weeks, we've seen the injustice of the new normal aggravated by climate change. Irma, the largest Atlantic hurricane ever recorded, did untold damage to the Caribbean islands in its path, uprooting lives and wiping out years of development progress. Similarly, when Hurricane Harvey made landfall in Texas, it was the poorest communities, those least able to escape the storm's path, which were most heavily impacted. Climate change exacerbates existing inequalities. For Indigenous communities, who face 6 times the rate of poverty as the rest of the world, the ability to withstand and build resilience to the impacts of climate change is greatly diminished. And all the while, they are facing a global increase in threats to their fundamental rights through violence, intimidation, and legal action. Already in 2017, there have been 134 environmental defenders killed while protecting their communities' land or natural resources. This is an unconscionable fate for those seeking to protect our common home. Not only should urgent measures be taken to protect the rights of Indigenous peoples, but decision makers, those crafting the policy response to climate change, must listen to and must learn from their experience. After all, local and Indigenous communities shoulder the bulk of responsibility for the planet's well-being. 70% of the world's food is produced by small-scale farmers, up to 70% of whom are poor women. Their lands and territories are home to 80% of the world's biodiversity. If we're to achieve the goal of the UN Declaration of Human Rights and the inclusive agenda of the Sustainable Development Goals and advance climate justice, Indigenous communities and local communities must be allowed to play a leading role. As we celebrate the recipients of the Equator Prize tonight, let's welcome the lessons they can teach us in living in balance with nature. And let's recommit to a future where all are equal in dignity and rights. And now, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Gary Nell, the President and CEO of the National Geographical Society, to also express his feelings on behalf of the National Geographic Society for this wonderful evening. Thank you very much.
I got the toughest name to thank, Mary Robinson. But President Robinson, thank you so much. And it's really a great honor to be here with my good friend and colleague Achim Steiner. We're so delighted that he has been moved into this new important global job from his great work at the UN Environmental Program, and now to take that passion to the UN Development Program is very exciting for all of us. So distinguished guests, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of National Geographic, it's a great honor indeed to be here. It's a great honor because it's an honor for these incredibly extraordinary winners. And we have been able to, as you will see in a moment, through the craftsmanship of my colleagues at National Geographic, create some videos, some storytelling, which will be sprinkled through tonight's program, to try to bring the stories of these great leaders to life, to a broader canvas, to be able to present an image, a powerful image of the people and the communities we are honoring here this evening. For as much as we are here to celebrate communities, we really do want to focus on these individuals. Within them, they are the ones who are calling us all to action. Tonight's videos, you'll see the faces of these heroes, the energy and optimism of young men with the Raja Ampat Homestay Association in Indonesia, The boundless joy of a child in Thailand, in the Bangla community, helping preserve the mangrove forest there. And the look of sheer determination in the eyes of a young woman where the Mali Elephant Project works, as she sits with her hands in her lap and stares boldly into the camera, as if to say, there is nothing my community and I can't do. In their faces, again and again, you see an incredible sense of tenacity and of purpose, of communities and people who keep pushing until they find innovative ways to protect the land, water, and forests that they cherish and depend upon. For today, our natural world is facing more challenges than perhaps ever before. In just the past month, we have seen forces of nature wreaking havoc across the globe, from these hurricanes decimating the Caribbean, Florida, Texas, to the earthquake in Mexico, the devastating floods in Southeast Asia. It's a stark reminder of the fragility of our planet, how much of a responsibility that we have as its stewards, and how critical it is for everyone to understand the importance of physical and human geography, of how people interact with the natural world and with one another. There's another major force at work today, though, and one that can give us all a sense of hope and optimism. It's the sheer force of courage, of grit, of creativity, of people like tonight's awardees. And it's a force that is getting stronger every single day. It's a growing movement. At National Geographic, we've been on their side since 1888. And today we're working hard to raise awareness of change makers like our winners tonight through our unparalleled storytelling, reaching nearly 1 billion people around the world. 78 million on Instagram alone, I might add. Almost as many as Kim Kardashian. So please help us achieve that goal. We're investing in bold people and transformative ideas by funding research all over the globe, including in indigenous communities like those we are celebrating here tonight. So we applaud tonight's winners for your incredible work, and we stand committed to continuing to do our part to further understanding and progress. Together, through the pioneering efforts of the UN Development Program, through working with organizations like National Geographic, and through amazing communities and individuals like yourselves represented here tonight, we can and we will create a powerful global movement of change makers. Together, we can protect our planet and create a better, safer, and more livable future. For that bold young woman in Mali, that boundless child in Bangla, and for generations to come. So congratulations to the Equator Prize 2017 winners. Have a wonderful evening, and now please surround yourself with these images on the health of our world's forests. Thank you so much.
The forest is our protector. It supports us, heals us, sustains us. It is a place of worship and solitude. The forest is life. It provides shelter, refuge, livelihood. It has the power to shape the rains, prevent floods, and keep droughts at bay. Without the forest, there is no life. Now, communities are coming together to do for the forest what it has always done for us. It is our turn to sustain it, to offer its reserves, to ensure its health, and provide safe haven. Our livelihoods are connected. And if the forest can heal us, perhaps we can heal it too.
That was beautiful. I think storytelling through film is one of the most powerful tools that we have to engage audiences and connect people to the natural world. So without further ado, I would like to introduce His Excellency, Minister of Climate and Environment, Government of Norway, Vidar Helgesen. Thank you.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, indigenous peoples and traditional communities are the best guardians of tropical forests and other key ecosystems. You perform this role by simply maintaining your livelihoods. Forests provide not only timber, but also non-timber products. As the Pairs community in Honduras and the Atix community of Brazil well know, when you protect forests, you protect life. As the Baboon Community Center women group in Belize discovered, protecting the forest means more jaguars, more ocelots, pumas, howler monkeys, birds, frogs, and all other animals. Forests harbor 80% of all plants and animals on Earth. Indigenous organizations and communities are key partners to the Norwegian Climate and Forest Initiative. Its purpose is to make forests more worth standing than dead. Protecting and restoring forests is key if we are to reach the goals of the Paris Agreement and many of the Sustainable Development Goals. Forests hold up to a third of the solution to climate change mitigation. They're critical to biodiversity, to water and rainfall patterns, to food security. So when we say that indigenous peoples are guardians of the forests, they're really guardians of humankind, guardians of life itself. Several decades of experience and evidence from Brazil shows that establishing indigenous territories is the most efficient way to safeguard the rainforest. In Norway's bilateral partnerships with Brazil, Colombia, Peru, the DRC, and Indonesia, we also support indigenous peoples' tenure rights. In 2014, Norway pledged to support the rights of indigenous peoples and traditional communities in tropical forests with $100 million by 2020. We're working closely with civil society and indigenous peoples organizations to implement this pledge. We also support traditional knowledge through the dedicated working group under the Convention on Biological Diversity and through a new platform under the Paris Agreement. We do this because communities can only manage forests if they have security for their lives and access to resources that sustain livelihoods and unique ways of living. The individuals and communities being awarded the prestigious Equator Prize here tonight demonstrate this to the full. Last year showed a record high in violent deaths of indigenous environmental defenders. We cannot accept this trend. Tonight's recipients from Brazil, Ecuador, and Honduras defend forests, climate, and biodiversity on behalf of all of us. Let's make sure they can continue to do so without fear for their life. Congratulations to all of you for your courage and innovation. Your strong spirit helped guide the way to a more sustainable future for Mother Earth and for all of us as her children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. So to present the prizes to the we've seen the landscapes in which the Equator Prize winners work. Tonight is about celebrating the accomplishments of each. So without further ado, the Equator Prize winners in forests. In Brazil, in the heart of the Amazon rainforest, this winner uses community mapping, education, and cultural exchange to ensure healthy forests. Please welcome to the Ashaninka people of Apucha municipality of the Ammonia River. To present the prizes to the Equator Prize 2017 winners in forests, we are welcoming Achim Steiner and as well as Kristen Walker of Conservation International. Thank you for joining us. All right, in Ecuador, in the richly biodiverse Intag Valley, this winner supports 38 communities to resist mining interests and conserve over 12,000 hectares of Andean biodiversity. So please, welcome Defense and Ecological Conservation of Intag, the Queen. In Honduras, this winner provides an essential ingredient to the global fragrance industry while sustaining livelihoods, maintaining healthy forests, and protecting traditional knowledge. Please welcome the Federation of Pech Indigenous Tribes of Honduras. And in Belize, led by women hailing from the northern coastal plain, this winner has safeguarded critical populations of black howler monkeys while enhancing local livelihoods. Please welcome the Community Baboon Sanctuary Women's Conservation Group. And in Brazil, working across their 27,000 kilometer indigenous territory, this winner produces certified organic honey to maintain vibrant cultures and promote sustainable livelihoods. Please welcome Xingu Indigenous Land Association. Let's give one more big round of applause for everybody, all the Equator Prize winners in forests. And to celebrate their accomplishments, I welcome to the stage Carlos Manuel Rodriguez, Vice President of Global Policy at Conservation International and former Minister of Environment for the government of Costa Rica.
Muchas gracias. Buenas noches. In 1970, my father and his brother, they built a house on the beach in Costa Rica. Back then, I was 10 years old, and I lived in a coffee farm in the highlands of Costa Rica, very close to the capital city. And we were delighted because every weekend, me and my brothers and cousins, we went down to the beach to spend the weekend on the beach. We jumped on this very old Land Rover, 65 Land Rovers, 8 kids, my mother, my father, my aunt, my uncle, all the way, 4 hours from the highlands to the lowlands. And that was pandemonium. 8 kids screaming, yelling, and some of them got dizzy on the way down, throwing up. I remember myself throwing up like 4 times on my way down to the coast for the weekend. So by the second month of every weekend going down to the coast with my father, my cousins, and everybody pack up on the Land Rover, my father was going crazy. He said, "This is not life. I need to do something to calm down the kids, to settle down." And he invented a game, fabulous game. That was a great idea. He was a very smart guy. He divided the boys in 2 groups. One group will count on the way down 4 hours on a dirt road from San Jose to the coast. 4 hours, one group of boys should count how many trucks with logs you saw on the road. And the other group of boys were counting how many trucks full of cattle they saw on the road. And the group that count more trucks with logs or trucks with cattle, will win. And that was great because it calmed down all of us. We were concentrating in looking for the trucks full of timber and the trucks full of cows. And he was even very wise, my father, because he gave us bonus points depending on the kind of wood that you saw on the trucks. Back then, we were irrationally logging the primary forest of Costa Rica. Some of the trucks had 8 logs, but some of them has just 1 big log. If we saw that one truck, we'll have 2 points, according to the rules of my father. So we spent many, many years going down that road every weekend and counting the timber coming out of a primary forest and filling the landscape with cows. If the truck was with cows, you got X amount of points. If there were bulls, you got X amount of points. So we had a great time going down and counting. Normally, we count in between 25 to 35 trucks full of timber coming from the primary forest of Costa Rica, or full of cows being brought to the slaughterhouses or being moved from one farm to the other. We were pushing the frontier and extracting the timber out of our forests. And the idea was progress. The idea was development. We are a poor nation. We need to develop ourselves. Forests are unproductive land. We need to produce land, put land under productions. Forest was conceived as unvaluable lands, a burden, a barrier for development. And it wasn't a surprise that in a matter of 10 years, Costa Rica lost most of our forests. When we lost most of our forests, we felt like naked. We felt like we lost all of the money of our bank account. Yeah, precisely, that's a good one. We lost all of the money of our bank account. The values, the richness of our nation was lost. And it took us 30 years to restore, bring back nature, restore our forests. My kids has never seen a truck full of logs in Costa Rica. My kids haven't never ever seen, and I use the same road, and I go the same house of my father who passed away a few years ago with my kids, and I make fun of them because they never seen a truck full of logs in Costa Rica or cattle being moved from one place to another. And those were the development policies that we thought that will give us progress back then. And now Costa Rica has been able to double the size of our forest while we tripled the income per capita. So protecting nature is not a burden to development. On the contrary, Costa Rica doesn't log anymore our primary forests, not because there's a law that doesn't allow us to log our primary forests, because it doesn't make any economic sense. Because in Costa Rica, people go and visit the country to see nature, biodiversity, and wildlife. We have 2 million people coming every year. We got a payment for carbon offsetting to private communities, owners of land, indigenous communities, farmers in Costa Rica are being paid for the offsetting of their carbon. And we pay them not because there's somebody in the north paying them, it's ourselves through a tax on fossil fuels. We have gone so far that we don't allow oil and gas and open pit for mining because it doesn't make any economic sense at all. So we're moving towards a new development paradigm in a way that everything began with forest conservation. Today, I'm blessed that I work at Conservation International because in my job, I've been able to spread those lessons, those political and institutional lessons with the rest of the tropical countries. But I see the same patterns I saw 30 years ago in Costa Rica. The same thing, I see it in the rest of Central America, in the Amazonian countries, in East and West Africa, in Southeast Asia, in the Pacific Islands. We're still destroying nature, destroying our forests, and I see the same patterns. Even though we got these great agreements on the Rio Convention, on the climate agreement, the CBD agreement, the SDGs, and we tend to forget that nature is 30% of the solution. Without protecting our forests, we will never achieve any goal, any of the targets in our different goals in our multilateral agreements. Nature is 30% of the climate solution, and nature is 30% of the SDGs. We're mobilizing very little resources around that. I personally think that we should never, ever touch our primary tropical forests anymore in the future. The same way we look back in time and we see people who slave other people, and we think that was crazy. 2 or 3 generations in front of us, people will see us at us and will say, those guys were really crazy and even stupid. They were logging their primary forest. We shouldn't log our primary forests because they are too important for our climate security and our human security. They are extremely valuable for our local economies and our local communities. And most importantly, they're extremely beautiful. Thank you. Have a good evening. I haven't finished yet. So now, join me welcoming Benki of the Ashaninka people from the state of Acre in Brazil, who will deliver a community statement on behalf of the winners of the forest category. The statement will be delivered in Portuguese, so simultaneous translation will be provided to all. Thank you. Benki.
Distintos convidados, vencedores do Prêmio Equatorial, senhores e senhoras, boa noite.
Distinguished guests, fellow Equator Prize winners, ladies and gentlemen, good evening.
É uma honra estar aqui com vocês esta noite. Eu sou Benki Pianco, Ashaninka, moro no estado do Acre, no Brasil, e estou honrado por fazer este discurso em nome dos 5 vencedores do Prêmio Equatorial sobre o tema Floresta.
It is an honor to be with you tonight. I am Benki of the Ashaninka people from the state of Acre of Brazil, and I am pleased to deliver a statement on behalf of the 5 Equator Prize winners under the theme of forests.
Nós representamos os povos indígenas e as comunidades locais da floresta amazônica. do Cerrado brasileiro, das florestas do Equador, Belize e Honduras.
We represent indigenous peoples and local communities from the forest of the Amazon and the Cerrado of Brazil, the cloud forest of Ecuador, and the rainforest of Belize and Honduras.
Nossas florestas são nosso lar, nosso modo de vida, nosso futuro e nossa riqueza. Para nós, riqueza não é apenas dinheiro. Riqueza é beber água limpa e respirar ar fresco. Existe riqueza na fauna, na água e na beleza das florestas. Existe riqueza no equilíbrio entre o humano e a natureza.
Our forests are our home, our way of life, our future, and our wealth. For us, wealth is not just about money. Wealth is drinking clean water and breathing fresh air. Wealth is in the animals, in the waters, and in the beauty of the forest. Wealth is the equilibrium between humans and nature.
A riqueza da nossa floresta se estende muito além de nós, de nosso território. A floresta fornece meios de subsistência para bilhões de pessoas e mantém o delicado equilíbrio climático e do ecossistema do planeta.
The wealth of our forest extends far beyond our own territories. The forest provides livelihoods for hundreds of millions of people. They are our medicine cabinets, and they maintain the delicate balance of the planet's ecosystems and of our climate.
Todos nós dependemos da floresta, e a floresta depende de nós. Nossa floresta enfrenta alterações climáticas. Nossa floresta está sob constante ameaça de desmatamentos, mineração, extração de óleo. Tragicamente, a riqueza da terra é valorizada mais pelo que está abaixo do solo do que pela floresta acima.
We all depend on forests, but the forests depend on us. Our forests face a changing climate and are under constant threat from illegal logging, mining, and oil extraction. Today, the wealth of our land is valued more by what is below the ground than by the riches of the forest above.
A iniciativa mostra um exemplo concreto de que é possível fazer. Existe jeito diferente de usar a riqueza das florestas de forma sustentável e próspera. Com essa iniciativa que cuidamos das florestas e dos rios, cuidamos de nós mesmos.
The initiatives that we represent tonight demonstrate that it is possible to use the wealth of the forest to promote sustainable and prosperous livelihoods. By taking care of the forest and the rivers, they take care of us.
Solicitamos aos governos nosso direito à nossa terra e aos consentimentos livre, prévio e informado e que sejam respeitados, aplicando por lei e por suas instituições.
To our governments, we call for our rights, rights to our land, and rights to free, prior, and informed consent to be respected and laws fully enforced by your institutions.
Solicitamos aos doadores e aos investidores ajudar financeira para a expansão e a replicação de nosso esforço.
To donors and investors, we call on you to finance the expansion and replication of our efforts.
Saudamos os esforços de empresas comprometidas com cadeias de fornecimento sustentável e pedimos que continuem seus caminhos.
To companies, we applaud your efforts to commit to sustainable supply chains, and we urge you to stay the course.
Nós te convidamos a vir aprender conosco. Ouça nossas mulheres e nossos homens. Queremos compartilhar nossa conquista e nossas inovações com vocês. Queremos que vocês vejam a riqueza da floresta através dos nossos olhos.
We invite you to come learn from us. Listen to our women and men. We want to share our achievements and innovations with you. We want you to see the wealth of the forest through our eyes.
Você verá que existe alternativa econômica ao desmatamento das florestas. Verás que nossa contribuição para o desenvolvimento sustentável é a ação climática, são reais. Verá que nosso esforço estão restaurando não somente a essência da terra, mas nossa própria essência.
You will see that there are economic alternatives to cutting down the forest. You will see that our contributions to sustainable development and climate action are real. You will see that our efforts are restoring not only the essence of our land, but the very essence of ourselves.
Esperamos que através desta plataforma do Prêmio Equatorial das Nações Unidas, vocês ouçam a urgência de apelo por ações concretas. Junte-se a nós na proteção da biodiversidade das florestas que protegem a vida da Mãe Terra, nosso lar comum, nossa herança compartilhada. Muito obrigado a todos.
We hope that through this UN platform of the Equator Prize, you will hear the urgency of our plea and our call to action. Join us in our efforts to protect the forests that protect life on Mother Earth, our common home, our shared heritage. Thank you very much, everyone.
The lands are a gift. Places of plenty, of wonder, of beauty, of life. We're each part of our land, and the land is a part of us. We depend on it when we're thirsty, hungry, or in need. Our land provides. Its natural beauty inspires us, shapes us, and makes us who we are. When we fight over it, desecrate it, and deplete it, we also harm ourselves. It takes courageous people to restore it and nurture it, to protect it and provide for it, to share it. The land gives us so much. We owed so much in return.
What a beautiful piece. How you guys feeling out there? Good? All right. I would now like to introduce the CEO and chairperson of the Global Environment Facility, Naoko Ishii.
Thank you. Friends and colleagues, very good evening to everyone. I am so happy tonight to be here together with you to celebrate all these amazing local communities and indigenous peoples. In the past few weeks, all of us have been knocked down by the devastating impact of hurricanes, monsoon, flood, earthquake. Apparently, we were on the collision course with nature. Today, we were putting so much of the pressure on our shared resources: air, water, ocean, forest, land, biodiversity. We must find a new way of thinking and acting to how to manage our global commons. In the past, our grandparents, maybe grand-grandparents, actually did manage the local commons very well. They have found a way to how to manage their local commons, the kind of practice or social contract, so that they could continue to depend on their water, the forests, biodiversity, fish, and air. They knew what they stood to lose if they were all gone. When our economy moved away from local to global, many of us lost our connection to the commons. The sense of stewardship of the commons was gone. But if we look around the world today, local communities and indigenous people have continued to manage their commons so well. As we have just seen for the last 1 hour, they have been the engine of the innovation. They have been a source of inspiration and courage. They have continued to lead the way. Now, we need to learn from them how to manage the commons again. This time, how to manage the global commons. The Global Environment Facility is deeply committed to supporting indigenous peoples and local communities. Through the Small Grants Program, we funded and managed by UNDP, we have provided technical and financial support to over 20,000 communities in 126 countries. And thank you. And today, I'm very glad and in fact very proud that 6 of the Equator Prize winners tonight are the recipient of the Small Grants Program. Thank you so much for doing this for us. These awards demonstrate by continuing to support communities and working together and learning from them, we can manage the global commons and local commons together. We all breathe the same air, we all drink the same water, we all depend on the same land, forests, and biodiversity. Only by working together, we can preserve the global commons. Thank you so much.
You guys ready for another round of rewards? All right. So thank you, Dr. Ishii, again for your remarks. To present the prizes to the Equator Prize 2017 winners in grasslands, drylands, and mountains, I would like to welcome the administrator back to stage. In this segment, the administrator will be joined by Christian Samper of Wildlife Conservation Society. Let's hear a round of applause real quick. It is my honor to present the Equator Prize 2017 winners in grasslands, drylands, and mountains. In Guatemala, led by indigenous Maya women, this winner has created a dynamic network of agroforestry practitioners to enhance income, build food security, and reduce disaster risk. Please welcome the Alliance for International Reforestation. Up next, in Mali, in a region plagued by conflict, this winner brings together local communities to protect a critical population of the endangered African elephant and to reduce violent extremism. Please put your hands together for the Mali Elephant Project. In Kazakhstan, in a region plagued by drought, this winner uses innovative alfalfa production to provide scalable solutions to restore soil fertility, conserve water, improve agricultural yields, and to adapt to a changing climate. Please welcome Public Foundation, Jazil Azik. In India, in the drought-prone state of Maharashtra, this winner works at the nexus of nutrition, sustainable food production, and gender, empowering women to act as agricultural decision makers. Please welcome Swayam Shikshun Prayog. In Pakistan, in the snowy peaks of Baltistan, this winner uses a simple but elegant model to tackle acute human snow leopard conflicts through insurance schemes and financial compensation. So please, put your hands together for the Baltistan Wildlife Conservation and Development Organization. Congratulations to these incredibly inspiring Equator Prize winners in grasslands, drylands, and mountains. Let's hear one more round of applause real quick. And I would now like to ask Christian Samper to say a few words to celebrate these 5 winners.
Good evening, buenas noches. You know, our world is out of balance. Our human footprint is larger than ever, and only about 23% of the surface of the planet still remains wild. Even more concerning, we've lost 10% of that wilderness in the last 2 decades alone. And we also know that tens of thousands of species are in danger of extinction due to wildlife trade, habitat loss, overexploitation, and climate change. We're losing 1 rhino every 8 hours. We're losing an elephant every 15 minutes. And at this rate, my children and your children and all the children of the world may not have the hope of seeing an elephant in the wild unless we do something together. I grew up in the Andes of Colombia, a tropical country that's blessed by nature and extraordinary biodiversity. As a young biologist, I spent endless hours and days studying birds and plants in the southwestern region of Colombia in Nariño. But many years later, when I went back to that region, I discovered that many of the places that I studied, those places where I collected plants and animals, those papers I published, and those places had disappeared. And it is clear, and I'm convinced, that the choices that we make in our generation will determine what is left for the future. And we need to find a better balance of the world. But the good news is we know which are these places, we know what needs to be done, and we also know that wildlife and biodiversity can and will recover if the conditions are right, and if we're working with local people, working with the right resources, and working long term. And for me, what's inspiring about this evening is seeing the example of the people that are making a difference on the ground. And I want to congratulate them very much and thank them for the work they're doing. The prize winners we're honoring tonight shows a pathway that balances the use of natural resources, using enough for our needs, but leaving enough for nature's needs as well. The Swayan Singsan Payong community in India practices agriculture in a way that minimizes water and water use while increasing productivity. In Guatemala, the Irish community has planted over 5 million trees and therefore avoided soil erosion and mudslides while creating important habitat for wildlife. And the public foundation, Sashi Lasik, found a new way to use an old crop and generated 200 new jobs while also restoring soil fertility. And the winners tonight also shows a pathway that balances human uses of land and the needs of wildlife. In Pakistan, the Balistan community has created a new insurance scheme that reimburses farmers for livestock losses from snow leopards, offered hope for this beautiful and beleaguered species. And in Mali, not only have eco-guardian youths dramatically reduced poaching of the globally significant elephant population, but they have learned to craft a balance for sharing scarce water resources between humans, livestock, and elephants. As I mentioned, we live in a world that may be out of balance, but tonight, these Equator Prize winners are showing us a way forward to a life more in balance with people, with agriculture, and with wildlife. Congratulations to all. And now it's my privilege to introduce one of the winners this evening to join us and to make remarks, and that will be Ms. Naila Rivsi from Pakistan on behalf of the winners of the Grasslands, Drylands, and Wildlife.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Distinguished guests, fellow Equator Prize winners, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's an honor to be with you tonight. I am Naila Rizvi from the Baltistan Wildlife Conservation and Development Organization, Pakistan. And I am pleased to deliver a statement on behalf of 5 Equator Prize winners under the theme of drylands, grasslands, and mountains. The place we call home, our world apart. We come from Pakistani mountains that touch the skies and where snow leopard roam. We come from Malian desert rich with herds of African elephants. We come from Kazakh and Indian drylands, where we nurture soils and use scarce water to grow food for tens of thousands of people. We come from Guatemalan highlands, where we use our ancient knowledge to sustainably grow food for our families. Our accomplishments are many. Together, we have planted over 5 million trees in Guatemala. We have protected populations of African elephants while creating peace through youth eco-guard in a region rife with conflicts and amidst extreme poverty. We have protected one of the world's most iconic species, the snow leopard, with an innovative insurance scheme for farmers. We have created 200 jobs in Kazakhstan, and in India, we enable 72,000 women to launch micro-enterprise businesses. We are educating and empowering women and girls because, as my fellow Equator Prize winner from Guatemala says, reforestation without education is time lost, and without empowered women, there can be no social change. We have been living with nature for generations. We know how to live in balance, and we know how to scale up our impact across communities, across countries, and across the world. To do this, however, we need your support. We call on governments and donors here tonight to work hand in hand with our communities to help restore our degraded landscape, help us produce enough food to feed our families, and help us replicate and scale up our good practices that help reduce climate change and eliminate human-animal conflicts. We also ask you to help advance land rights for women farmers, as well as help to create even more opportunities for women entrepreneurship. We also call on media to help us share our stories. Our initiatives have faced many challenges since their creation, but today we are here to share our story of success. By protecting our lands and by safeguarding nature, we are investing in the sustainable development of our people. Today, we realize that we are not alone. Today, we invite you to join us to open your heart to the call of the land and to take action. Together, we can create the change our world needs for a resilient and sustainable future. Thank you.
The ocean is Earth's infinite mystery. Vast, unexplored, and unimaginably powerful. A source of awe and calm. A fascination and fear. Of deep connection. The ocean is the beating heart of our planet, and it's been ticking for billions of years, giving and taking. An omnipotent engine that drives our climate and provides for our world. We can't let it stop. To be balanced, strong and powerful, driving and providing. And it takes strong people to affect change. Whether it's restoring mangroves, running no-take fisheries, maintaining native ecosystems, striving for sustainability, or securing protected areas. We all need it to keep going, to keep beating, if we're to keep going too.
All right. So to open our final thematic segment of this program, I welcome to the stage Celine Cousteau, filmmaker, activist, and director of Cause-Centric Productions. Please put your hands together for Celine Cousteau, everybody.
we've gotten to the oceans category. Thank you all for being here. We are all actually completely and inextricably connected to the oceans. And I would like to ask all of you just to take a moment to take 2 very deep breaths. First of all, I think we need it. It's gotten to that time of the night where we just need to re-energize. But more importantly, that first breath is thanks to our forests that produce the oxygen we breathe. But that second breath is thanks to our oceans, because they produce half of our oxygen. So if we think we're not connected, just remember every other breath, you can say thank you to the oceans, to the microscopic phytoplankton that allow us to breathe. We're connected to our oceans through fish. Seafood comprises 1 of every 5 bites of protein we eat. And for coastal communities, it's closer to every other bite. That means that seafood is a way of life for a lot of communities. It is their livelihood on which they depend for their well-being, for their nourishment, and for their economy. We're also connected to our oceans through climate change. With a warming climate, our oceans are getting hotter. And with the warming temperatures of oceans, coral are bleaching. And when coral bleach, all of coral life dies. And that on which we depend goes with it. We see storms intensifying. A couple of speakers have already mentioned that this evening. They affect all of us. Some of us directly through loss of life, loss of homes, loss of businesses, but all of us directly because we have to rebuild, and that affects the economy of the entire country. Rebuilding falls upon all of us, and the oceans are that close to our hearts. We are connected through plastic. Our use of single-use plastics, a spoon, a straw, a plastic bag, anything that we utilize and then throw away, a lot of that ends up in our oceans. And this is an alarming statistic. If you think about a full circle, the plastic comes back to us through the food that we eat. 2 out of every 5 fish has plastic in its flesh because of us. And if we continue at the rate that we are currently utilizing plastic, by 2050, there might be more plastic in our oceans than fish. Now, the Equator Prize is one way that we recognize the connection between humans and our environment, and in this case, humans and oceans. The communities that we are honoring this evening are recognized for their work protecting coral, seagrass, and mangroves that feed and protect them and us. They are also being awarded for the innovative work finding pathways to sustainably managing their fish and sustainably developing their communications and their communities to live in harmony with the oceans. Now, my grandfather, Jacques Cousteau, was not the only person to say this. People protect what they love. It's what we all do when we love something, no matter what that is. He inspired generations to connect with the oceans through his films, and I'm proud to continue that work. And it was said earlier, films have the power to inspire and to create change. They have the power to connect people around the world. And it is activism. It is the people that are on the ground connecting us to those ecosystems that create tangible change. It matters what each one of us does individually, because much like a ripple in the water, our actions have the potential to reach far off shores. And we can, each one of us, we can all initiate that domino effect of positive change. And in fact, we must. Now, this is what each one of today's awardees is doing. Whether we're looking or not, they continue to take the guardianship of an ecosystem we all depend on, an action that has a collective benefit. And for that, I and we all should be grateful to them. Now, just backstage, I said that I would take somebody diving. And I think that that's one of the most beautiful things that we are able to do, is whether you go to the ocean shore for your short vacations, your long vacations, whether you're a diver, touch that ocean and you will immediately understand its connection to you. Thank you all for being here this evening. Thank you.
Wow. Okay, so she said it to all you guys. We are now holding her accountable to take me diving. Thank you so much to Ms. Cousteau. And now, to present the prizes to the Equator Prize 2017 winners in Oceans, I would like to welcome the administrator back to the stage one final time. The administrator will be joined by Jill Blokus of the Nature Conservancy. Please make some noise for our friends joining us on stage. Now, the Equator Prize 2017 winners in Oceans, our final category. In Indonesia, this winner has created an innovative ecotourism web portal that guarantees hospitality standards to international travelers while conserving fragile marine ecosystems. Please welcome Raja Ampat Homestay Association. In Kenya, the mangrove forests of Gazi Bay, this winner is the first community carbon project in the world to conserve mangroves and enhance community well-being through the sale of carbon credits. So please welcome Mikoko Pamoja. Now remember, this is our final category for the night, so we're gonna need all of your love and energy. In Indonesia, this winner creates conservation compacts and community businesses that promote sustainable livelihoods, enhance local resilience, and protect intact native ecosystems. Please welcome Yayasan Planet Indonesia. In Thailand, after their mangrove forest provided protection from a devastating tsunami, this winner secured mangrove management rights to promote conservation, disaster resilience, and business development. Please welcome the Mangrove Forest Conservation Group of Bangla Community and Food Security Project for Coastal Community to Phang Nga Bay. In Kenya, as a first locally managed marine area in this country, this winner has pioneered a small but beautiful approach to sustainable fisheries and small-scale businesses that has become a nationwide model. Please welcome the Kuruwitu Conservation and Welfare Association. Congratulations to these incredible inspirations, these Equator Prize winners in the oceans category. And to celebrate local actions on oceans, I welcome to the stage Ingrid Gabriela Hoven, Director General of Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development of Germany. Please make some noise.
Dear representatives of indigenous peoples, dear award winners, dear local communities, dear champions of sustainable development, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. The power of the oceans is immense. The ocean has been the font of island and coastal culture for millennia and a spark to our collective human imagination. As we have seen from recent hurricanes and typhoons around the world, we know that oceans have the power to destroy, but we also know the oceans have the power to give us a lot. Earlier this year, the world convened in New York to celebrate the oceans and to highlight their powerful role in helping us achieve many of the Sustainable Development Goals. As we look to 2030, and this is just around the corner, we must learn to harness the vast potential of the power of the oceans to help us achieve our global goals for sustainable development. And here is why. The oceans sustain us. 3 billion people rely on fish as a major source of protein. The oceans are critically important for developing countries, small island development states, and indigenous and coastal communities around the world. Oceans have the power to feed us today and in the future, and they can help us end extreme poverty. And we see this with the Kuruwitu community, the first locally managed marine area in Kenya, working to ensure sustainable fisheries that can feed every member of the community. The oceans provide income, a lot of income, and wealth. Fishing and marine ecotourism supports the jobs and livelihoods for hundreds of millions of people around the world. About 1 out of every 8 people on this planet depends upon fisheries or marine ecotourism. Oceans have the power to sustain our families and communities, and we see this with the Homestay Association in Indonesia, where the blue economy has created 600 new sustainable jobs and 84 new businesses. The oceans enable women to work. Although fishing is often associated with men's work, women around the world have a key role in fisheries. In India, for example, 60% of fisheries workers are women. In Western Africa, 80% of seafood markets are run by women. Oceans have the power to achieve gender equity. And we see this with the Planet Indonesian initiative, in which 2/3 of the newly created businesses are women-owned. And the oceans absorb half of all carbon dioxide emissions. Seagrass beds are as efficient as tropical forests in capturing carbon, and mangroves are even more efficient. Oceans have the power to help us fulfill the promise of the Paris Agreement. And we see this with the Mikoko Pamoyo community, among the first community globally to restore mangroves based on blue carbon credits. The oceans protect our coastal cities and communities. Seagrass beds, mangroves, and coral reefs are among the most valuable ecosystems on Earth because they mitigate and buffer extreme storm events. Oceans have the power to keep our cities and our communities safe, and we see this with the Baan village in Thailand, which was spared the devastation of the tsunami because their ecosystems were intact. The oceans inspire us. Every picture, every stay at the oceans, and this year's ocean winners inspire us even more. Germany is a proud contributor to this year's Equator Prize. But what is even more important, you, the many best practices and examples from local communities, have inspired us to embark on a longer-term journey when it comes to the protection of the oceans and sustainable fisheries. Last year, we initiated a 10-point action plan for marine conservation and sustainable fisheries, which we are now implementing with our partners in developing countries. This year, at the occasion of the SDG 14, the Oceans Conference, together with Sweden, we launched the so-called Blue Action Fund, which is now endowed with 27 million euros, and it should give a chance to local NGOs, to international NGOs, to scale up action to protect the oceans, inspired by the many good practices that we today also reward through this Equator Prize. So, we have to continue our journey. We hope that many of you will be inspired to take action to protect the oceans and to restore coastal ecosystem. Only then, if we can unleash the power of communities around the globe, we can also unleash the power of the oceans to help us achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Many thanks. Many, many thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my honor to welcome Mrs. Novia Zagita from Indonesia and Mr. Josvat Mambane Mpana from Kenya, who will deliver the community statement on behalf of the Equator Prize winners in the Oceans category. Please give them a warm welcome. Thank you.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's a privilege. We are Josvat Mwamba Mtwana from Mikoko Pamoja in Kenya and Novia Sagita from Yayasan Planet, Indonesia, receiving the Equator Prize today on behalf of our fellow Equator Prize winners under the theme of oceans. We represent indigenous people and local communities who are stewards of the oceans, creating innovative ecotourism, restoring critical mangroves, and establishing locally managed marine protected areas in Indonesia, Thailand, and Kenya.
Every day, we strive to live in tandem with nature, to maintain the rich biodiversity of our communities. By sustainably managing ocean ecosystems, we feed our families, engage our youth in education, empower women as decision makers, protect our communities from natural disasters, and develop sustainable and meaningful livelihoods.
In my community, Mikoko Pamoja, we are protecting mangroves to protect our fisheries. And the blue carbon credits are helping to reduce poverty in my community.
In my community in Indonesia, we planted more than 35,000 seedlings. Together, our 5 initiatives here tonight have protected over 50,000 hectares of mangrove and rainforests. Sequestered thousands of tons of carbon, created hundreds of new jobs, and secured countless fish for our families and yours. Our elders remind us of the gifts of the oceans at the beginning of every meal. However, these gifts are being lost because of overfishing, pollution, and changing climate. Ocean degradation is impacting the welfare of communities everywhere, including ours. Because of this, we cannot stay quiet. The ocean is our source of life, and there's so much that we wish to share to help to protect it.
We are proud of the results of our initiatives, and we want to share our practices, innovations, and traditional knowledge so that even more communities will follow our path. There are already many communities like ours working for the health of the oceans and our families, but we need your help to expand our impact. To our governments, we call on you to engage us as equal partners. We want to work with you. We want to show you what we can do and help you help others. Recognize indigenous peoples and local communities for our contributions to sustainable development. Provide us with opportunities to share our knowledge with you and participate meaningfully in policy processes.
To businesses, banks, and investors, we need access to capital and credit. It is essential that the private sector join our efforts in promoting conservation, ecotourism, and community-run businesses. We invite you to invest in nature for developing and for the future. Invest with us. To close, we would like to thank the policymakers, researchers, donors, and activists gathered here today who are supporting our work and joining the movement to save our oceans. Today, we are receiving the Equator Prize on behalf of our communities for our hard work. But we cannot walk alone. We need you, and you need us. Let's work together. Thank you.
Can we get one more round of applause for our prize winners as they leave the stage? I feel so inspired right now. I don't know if you guys feel the same, but I'm so inspired after those 3 different categories. I'm ready to create some change. All right. So to close our program for the evening and offer us some final reflections on the work of the Equator Prize winners, I would like to welcome Angel Gurria, Secretary General of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Please offer a warm welcome.
Excellencies, dear colleagues, friends, it's a privilege to be back among the friends, the sponsors, the supporters, and the achievers of the Equator Initiative. Now, only a couple of months ago, I warned the G20 leaders in Hamburg that we are quite literally on a collision course with nature. Much more needs to be done to protect our planet, and it needs to be done now. Fossil fuels continue to dominate the energy mix, with both the OECD countries as well as the BRICS still relying on fossil fuels for more than 80% of their energy supply. Now, despite a slowdown in the OECD area, global CO2 emissions continue to grow. They're up 58% from 1990. 15 of the warmest years on record since pre-industrial levels have occurred since 2001. And global temperatures are projected to rise further. Now, as Gary Nell of National Geographic reminded us, we're also seeing an acceleration of acute ecosystems degradation across both our terrestrial and marine ecosystems. A third of global wild fish stocks are overexploited, and wild bird populations have declined by nearly 41% since the 1960s. We find ourselves at a critical juncture where decisions made today about climate policy will determine whether or not the goals set in the SDGs and the Paris Agreement are achieved. These decisions make environmental sense, but they also make economic sense. Earlier this year, at the request of Chancellor Merkel, I presented the G20 with a detailed report where we show that investing in a climate-friendly policy package can actually increase long-run output by at least 5%. We have shared this report with both the G20 and the G7 leaders. Business and climate go well together. Now, again, as some of you alluded, tragic events, Harvey, Irma, powerful reminders of the need to make long-term investments that will fortify the resilience to climate change-related disasters, especially in developing and small island states. Worldwide, millions of jobs depend on biodiversity. But to realize the vast economic value of nature, we must invest in protecting, restoring, and managing biodiversity and ecosystems around the world. Now, dear friends, local communities are the ones who have to live with the consequences of success or failure. This is especially true of rural and indigenous communities, which are often hardest hit by natural resource degradation. And we often see important disparities in well-being across indigenous and non-indigenous populations. Yet, despite the challenges they face, indigenous communities have unique talents, capabilities, traditional knowledge of land stewardship, and about the management of natural resources, as we have seen. The Equator Initiative is a moving example of dedication, of commitment, of an admirable sense of mission, of a global, greener vision, and of a contagious, remarkable ambition to make the world a better place. You are shining examples of how it can be done, of how the Sustainable Development Goals can be achieved in practice, and often with a very high return on investment. The Equator Initiative continues to play a vital role in showcasing these successes and also in inspiring others. As Achim Steiner said, there are hundreds and hundreds of these projects. They didn't make it to New York. They didn't make it to the General Assembly. It was not possible for practical reasons, but they're all there fighting it out, making it possible to mix sustainability with the economic feasibility and the sustenance of their communities. The Equator Initiative not only is leading by example, but it has also set a number of paths along which many of the NGOs, many of the international organizations, including, I have to say, the OECD, have followed. However, today, the continuity of this work is threatened. Its funding is no longer assured. And I'd like to thank the sponsors who have been joining us tonight, who have made it possible to do it one more time and one more time. But it's a struggle. Every year, it's a struggle. It used to be that there was multi-year funding before. Now, every year, it's a struggle. Now, every year, we must make it happen. And we can do better than that. Now is the time for all of us to deliver. Governments, business, civil society, foundations, and in this huge endeavor, please count on the OECD. Thank you. Now, dear friends, there's a bit of a change to the program. Salif Keita from Mali is not going to be able to join us tonight, but it is my honor and privilege to introduce a wonderful performer. Morley is a native singer. She's a songwriter. She has brought her unique blend of jazz, folk, and soul to the world stage. Her message is clear: love, justice, and inspiration. She has used music to engage young people, including in conflict zones. And her compositions have brought her before the Dalai Lama, Nelson Mandela, and Ban Ki-moon, to name only a few. Today, she is performing before you. Welcome, Morley.
Thank you so much. It is a really big pleasure to be here in place of my dear brother Salif Keita, and a great honor. Thank you for supporting this important work for all of us. And for those that don't have a voice, or that have a voice but we don't speak the language like we used to maybe, I'm speaking of the water. Thank you for helping to protect the water. The water, we are an extension of the water. We are an extension of the trees, of the soil, of one another. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
Sever the ties of the old you and I, sever them clean. Clip back the yellow leaves, focusing only please on the emerald green. Sever the ties of the old you and I, sever them clean. Clip back the yellow leaves, focusing only please on the emerald green. I was never made for you to hurt me. I was only made for you to care. Anytime I look into the distance, one way or another you are there. So I sever the ties of the old, you and I. Sever them clean. Clip back the yellow leaves, focusing only please on the emerald green. I know I promise I will try, but I never said that I'd win. 'Cause after every battle it's always time to fight again. I know we promise we will try to put our weapons down in the end. But after every battle it's always time to fight again. Please sever the ties of the old, you and I. Sever them clean. Clip back the yellow leaves, focusing only please on the emerald green. Thank you.
I would like to invite my inspiration, my brother.
All right, we're gonna hit you guys with something a little bit different. Listen up. The power to change the world is in each of our hands. Not the president or government, they still don't understand. We fight for our people, for this planet we stand. As our government and industries walk hand in hand, we will fight for our rights against these tar sands. We will take back our streets. This is our land, this is the only home we got. We must protect and not neglect it. Say no to these pipelines, we get the people to reject it. La batalla que luchamos por el hombre humano, la tierra y el viento, la agua contaminado. Somos guardianes de la cultura de nuestros ancestros. En Catlazo Camati, por la vida me ha dado. Es una cosa sobrevivir y otra cosa crecer. Como un flor en el bosque, es tiempo amanecer. Somos gente de la tierra, no la gente de la guerra. El camino rojo es nuestra cultura sagrada.
I feel the power where you are. I feel the power where you are. I feel the power where you are. Let's sing. I feel the power where you are. I feel the power where you are. I feel the power where you are.
Yeah. So I'm a descendant of a people oppressed and enslaved. My people are rising up, breaking free from these locks and chains, of bringing forth the movement that's on the rise, uniting the people of the earth all under one sky to defend our sacred land, to defend our only home, protect these sacred waters. We will never be alone. Reconnect to the sacred wisdom of our ancestors past. You'll set free my people. We are rising at last. Reconnect to the sacred wisdom of our ancestors past and set free our people. We are rising at last. Yeah.
Power where you are. I feel the 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 power where you are. Let me say it. Sing with us. Let me say this. I feel the power where you are. I feel the power where you are. We got the power where we 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 are. We remember we're made of stars. We remember we're made of stars. You can sing that. We remember we're made of stars. One more time. We remember we're made of stars. Last time. We remember we're made of stars. Right?
I wrote this about the environment, and every time I'd sing it, someone would say, oh, what's that song, that breakup song? Can you sing that breakup song again? A song about the breakup. I say, what song is that? They said, you know, about trying. I said, no, that's about the environment. And I don't often sing it, and so I feel I wasn't planning on being here, and I wasn't planning on singing this song, so I'm going to share this with you because I feel like you understand me. It's not too late, not too late, not too late for us. With a change of mind, it's not too late for us. I'm not alone in what I now understand, that my only home is in my hand. Then it's not too late, not too late, not too late for us. If we see it now and we feel it now, it's not too late for us. Oh, but we've been living so long this way that it seems too hard to make a change. But we've got to make a change. We've got to try, try, try just a little bit harder. To shine, shine a little bit brighter. Hold on, trust your song that you hear inside. Now I can't be a liar and tell you that I don't try to not think about what we had. Precious rainforests full of trees, solid mountains of ice on the sea. There's no doubt we've gone too far. But if we start right where we are, right where we are, and we try, try, try just a little bit harder to live and give a whole lot smarter. Hold on, trust this song. You got to trust this song, 'cause I can hear Mother Nature sing. I need you, I need you, you need me too. I need you, I need you, you need me too. Yeah. Don't take my love for granted. Mother Nature says she loves us so. Don't take her love for granted. Mother, we love you so. And the wind doesn't recognize man-made borderlines. No, the wind and the water never recognized man-made borderlines. We've got to try, try, try just a little bit harder. Shine our love, sisters and brothers. Hold on, trust that song that you hear inside. Let's sing together, one. We've got to try, try, try just a little bit harder to live and give a whole lot smarter. Hold on, trust this song. Trust the song, trust your song. It won't be long that you hear inside. Thank you.
Wow. Just a quick closing statement. Thank you so much to our prize winners, all of you, for the incredible, inspiring work. Thank you to Morley for inspiring us with the music and the art, which is such an important part of these movements. Thank you to all the beautiful people that helped make this event possible. Thank you to all of you for showing up this evening. We have to remember that the change that we are cultivating in this room, these voices that we are elevating, cannot succeed alone. We need your support, we need your help, we need your effort, because to shape the world we are all dreaming of is dependent on all of us playing our part. These are the faces of the heroes and leaders that are shaping our tomorrow, that are shaping the world your children and grandchildren will inherit, and you have to be a part of it. Together, we can shape and build the world we believe in. So thank you again to our prize winners for all their inspiring work. Thank you guys for coming out tonight. Remember that change begins from within. We plant one seed and we cultivate it. Take a little seed, a little piece of this hope, and bring it back to your community, to your home, to your family. And together we will shape the world we deserve. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.